Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Magic Pill Monday, where we talk about all kinds of supplements to see if they are worth buying based on science or if they're going to be a waste of money. And today we're looking at L-Citrulline, which is mainly a blood flow booster that is found in watermelon. So why would you supplement with L-Citrulline? Well, as I just said, it's found in watermelon. However, the minimum effective dosage of L-Citrulline is around 3 grams. And to achieve that, you would have to eat 1.5 kilograms of watermelon, which is quite unrealistic to do. So if you want to have the beneficial effects of L-Citrulline, you probably have to get a supplement. Now, the main benefit of L-Citrulline was found to be an increase in blood flow. And this can have a wide range of potential benefits. For example, reducing blood pressure, improving sport performance, and also help people that are suffering from erectile dysfunction, for example. Now we're going to look at some studies on all of these different subjects, and we're going to also answer a couple of questions, namely, is arginine better than L-Citrulline? So arginine is another supplement that is commonly used to achieve an increase in blood flow, and we're going to compare them to each other, see which one is better. Does it really improve sport performance? There are actually some conflicting studies on that matter. And I'm also going to show you how supplement companies are fooling you with this specific supplement. So as usual, I will put the timestamps for these videos in the description. So just jump around to the part of the video that you are going to find most interesting, because the video might be a little bit too long for you to sit through entirely. All right, so let's get started. All right, so how does L-Citrulline work in the body and how does it compare to arginine? Let's have a look. So we can zoom in on this graph here and we see that citrulline here on the top is ingested into the body, either as a supplement or through, for example, watermelon. Then it goes from the digestive system into our bloodstream, where it follows a path and eventually ends up in the kidneys. And in the kidneys, it is converted into arginine. And this arginine, as a result, increases something in the blood called nitric oxide, often denoted as NO. And NO, in turn, causes the blood vessels to dilate. We call that vasodilation, which simply means that more blood is able to flow through the blood vessels when that happens. So interestingly, we see that citrulline is eventually converted to arginine in the kidneys. However, if we compare that to arginine itself, we can see in this graph that arginine encounters some issues. Namely, there is an enzyme that sort of converts arginine into ornithine and urea, and that enzyme is present in the digestive system and also in the liver. So arginine is facing some blockages, and a lot of arginine is lost in the digestive system and in the liver. So actually it seems that L-Citrulline is more effective in raising arginine in the blood than arginine itself, because L-Citrulline circumvents the blockages at the digestive system and the blockage at the liver. So here we have a nice little summary. Basically, we see that L-Arginine encounters enzymes in the digestive system and the liver, but L-Citrulline passes through and is eventually converted to arginine in the kidneys, where it raises nitric oxide and causes vasodilation. Now, other potential benefits that are shown on this graph are, for example, lipolysis, which just means an increase in fat burning, and an increase potentially in muscle protein synthesis. Now here we have another study comparing arginine and L-Citrulline, and they indeed found what we just talked about. Namely, it says here, L-Citrulline dose-dependently increased AUC and Cmax of plasma L-Arginine concentration more effectively than L-Arginine. And AUC is simply the area under the curve, and Cmax is the highest concentration of the drug in the blood. So what this just says is that L-Citrulline is more effective in achieving a maximum amount of L-Arginine in the blood and also a total amount of L-Arginine over time in the blood compared to taking an L-Arginine supplement. So if your goal is to increase blood flow as a result of increased arginine in the blood, then L-Citrulline is a better choice than L-Arginine. So here we have the first study on the benefits of L-Citrulline, and we're starting with exercise performance, which is often thought to be the main benefit. Now, the first benefit actually is just increasing the blood flow, which can achieve this kind of vascular look that some men or women maybe also want to achieve when they are working out, but also an increased pump. And pump simply means that when you are working out, the blood flow in your muscles kind of makes your muscles expand and feel really full, which is a sort of sensation that a lot of bodybuilders and resistance training people are looking for in the gym. So here we have a study in which people were taking 5 grams of L-Citrulline, and it says after supplementation, nitrosogene and citrulline malate increased flow-mediated dilation. This is another word for blood flow by 31 and 34% respectively, compared to a decrease of 2% during the placebo trial. So they were looking at two different supplements here. One is called nitrosagine, and the other is citrulline malate, which is L-Citrulline and malic acid combined. And they found that people taking about 5 grams of L-Citrulline saw an increase of 34% in the blood flow measure they were taking right here. So of course it's nice that L-Citrulline might be able to improve your looks and give you a better pump if that's what you're after. But of course we're also interested if L-Citrulline can improve our exercise performance. So that's what we're going to look at next. And here we have a meta-analysis that is looking at 12 studies with a total of 198 participants, and they were taking 4 to 6 grams typically before a workout. So say 60 minutes before a workout. I'm looking specifically here, as the title suggests, at high intensity strength and power performance. And the main thing that we're looking at in these 12 studies was either resistance training or sprints. Now the study reports the following. Results of the meta-analysis identified a significant benefit for citrulline compared to placebo treatments. Now what is this benefit? Now, typically meta-analyses, they express the benefit in something called SMD, which stands for standard mean deviation. And what they found in the study was that L-citrulline had a 0.2 standard mean deviation, which is somewhat comparable, for example, to the effects of caffeine on strength and power, which has a standard mean deviation of 0.21 and 0.42, depending on which meta-analysis you're looking at, and creatine, which has a standard mean deviation of 0.17 to 0.20, also depending on which study you look at. So L-citrulline, according to this meta-analysis at least, has a comparable benefit to strength and performance as caffeine or creatine. In this next study, they were looking at L-citrulline and its effect on how you feel during the exercise and how sore you get. So we have 13 studies that were looking at that with a total of 206 participants. And again, they were taking about 4 to 6 grams, usually 30 minutes to an hour before the workout. And what they found was that taking L-citrulline lowered the RPE, which is a rate of perceived exertion. And that simply means if you're doing a certain exercise, how exhausted do you feel in the end? What is the intensity level that is necessary to complete this exercise? So if that is very high, it means you are really pushing yourself to your absolute limit of what you can do. And if it's really low, it means that it's super easy for you to do. So apparently taking L-citrulline made the exercises that were being done easier, at least subjectively, in the way how they felt it was going. Also, they saw a reduction in muscle soreness. So people taking L-citrulline simply felt less muscle soreness 24 hours or 48 hours after a hard workout. So here is one of the studies actually that was included in one of those meta-analyses. We have 41 young men with at least 6 months of training experience, and they were taking 4 to 6 grams of L-citrulline 30 to 60 minutes before the workout. Now, the workout test in this case was 8 sets of bench press to failure, meaning they had to do as many repetitions as possible until they really couldn't do any repetition anymore. And this was done with a weight that was equal to 80% of their maximum weight they can lift. And the study says the number of repetitions showed a significant increase from placebo treatment to citrulline malate treatment from the third set evaluated. And in total, they found that people taking L-citrulline could do 53% more repetitions and felt 40% less muscle soreness. So those are some very impressive figures. However, it is important to mention, as I mentioned in the introduction of this video, that there are some doubts about the effects of L-citrulline on workout performance, because there are also studies that show that it might not have any effect at all. For example, here we have another meta-analysis, and it includes 4 studies with 138 participants, and it says we did not observe an overall effect favoring L-citrulline malate supplementation. Considering the lower and upper limbs, a non-significant overall effect was identified. So this study, which is also a meta-analysis, found no effect of L-citrulline supplementation. And we have another study here, which is combining 10 studies, so it's another meta-analysis of 125 participants in total, and they were specifically looking at aerobic exercise performance. So for example, running, cycling, those kind of things. And it says the following. The results showed no positive effects of citrulline supplementation on aerobic performance, the RPE, so the rate of perceived exertion, VO2 kinetics, and lactate. In conclusion, citrulline supplementation did not prove to have any benefits for aerobic exercise performance and related outcomes. So that is again some study that is pretty high quality that shows that L-citrulline apparently has no benefit for workout performance. So now the question is, what do we make of this? We could, for example, try to figure out how could it be that these studies found no effect while other studies did. One of the reasons could be that the studies were simply using too low of a dosage. So as I discussed earlier in this video, the minimum effective dosage of L-citrulline is 3 grams and the maximum effective dosage is 10 grams. However, most studies use about 4 to 6 grams. So it could simply be that if this dosage was increased to say 10 grams, that the effect is going to be positive. We simply don't know. This is just purely a hypothesis. Another hypothesis is that there are simply not enough studies to show a significant benefit. So for example, if you look at the result of that meta-analysis that included 4 studies, and we look in the paper itself, we see this graph, which shows that actually the 4 studies all showed a little bit of a benefit of citrulline malate supplementation. They're all on the right side of this middle line, which says favors citrulline malate. However, the results were simply not statistically significant. So even though there is a positive trend, we cannot be for sure if that is due to random effects, for example. So it could simply be that if we have more studies, that this effect eventually does become statistically significant, because at least there seems to be a positive trend. However, these are all hypotheses. It could simply be that L-Citrulline is actually not a super effective supplement. Time will have to tell us the answer to that question. For now, we have a couple of studies showing a benefit and a couple of studies showing no benefit. The second benefit of L-Citrulline is energy production. And we have a very interesting study here, which includes 18 men complaining of fatigue, taking 6 grams of L-Citrulline per day for 15 days. And it says the following. Citrulline malate ingestion resulted in a significant reduction in the sensation of fatigue, a 34% increase in the rate of oxidative ATP production, ATP is energy, during exercise, and a 20% increase in the rate of phosphocreatine recovery after exercise, indicating a larger contribution of oxidative ATP synthesis to energy production. In other words, there was a significant increase in energy and a decrease in sensations of fatigue when taking 6 grams a day of citrulline for 15 days. So this next study kind of ties into this, but it's way more of a low quality study. It's a rat study which found actually that nitric oxide was found to trigger mitochondrial biogenesis in cells. In other words, nitric oxide, which is a molecule that is raised when you take an L-citrulline supplement, could potentially increase the rate at which new mitochondria are produced in cells. And mitochondria are the parts of the cell that create energy. So possibly nitric oxide increase as a result of supplementation could increase our energy production because it results in more mitochondria. However, as I said, this is a rat study and it needs to be put into context. We don't really know if the same occurs in humans and how it works exactly. So just keep that in mind, but I thought it was interesting to share nevertheless. The third benefit that L-citrulline supplementation can have is that it can help with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Here we have a study, a randomized control trial, which was looking at 50 patients taking 2 grams a day of L-citrulline for 3 months. And they saw a reduction in 2 inflammatory markers, namely C-reactive protein and tumor necrosis factor alpha, and also a reduction in liver enzymes. And these are all positive findings for people that are suffering with that disease. So the fourth benefit is blood pressure, and there's a great study that combines several trials, in this case 14 trials, where people were taking about 6 grams per day of L-citrulline, and they found that L-citrulline supplementation significantly decreased non-resting brachial and aortic SBP, and SBP stands for systolic blood pressure, and also that brachial diastolic blood pressure was significantly lowered by L-citrulline regardless of resting status. Now, systolic blood pressure is simply the blood pressure when the heart is beating, and the diastolic blood pressure is the blood pressure in between beats. Brachial, this refers to the upper arm, and aortic refers to the heart. So in conclusion, this statement just says that L-citrulline was able to reduce different types of blood pressure in different parts of the body significantly. So if you are dealing with high blood pressure, this could be helpful. And the last benefit, number 5, is erection strength. And this is a study with 24 patients, men that were suffering from low erection strength or maybe even erectile dysfunction. They were taking 1.5 grams per day of L-citrulline, which is a very low amount. And as you recall, it's actually lower than the minimum effective dosage. However, maybe because they were using it over a longer period of time, it was effective. And in this case, they were doing it for 1 month. So what they found was that the improvement in the erection hardness score from 3 to 4 occurred in 2 of the 24 men when taking a placebo, and 12 of the 24 men when taking L-citrulline. So some men taking the placebo saw an improvement, the typical placebo effect perhaps. However, 12 of the 24 men saw an improvement when taking L-Citrulline. So it definitely seems that L-Citrulline has a positive effect on erectile function, according to this study. But those are the benefits. Now let's talk about how supplement companies are actually fooling you specifically with L-Citrulline. And to show this, I have here an ingredient label from a pre-workout supplement that is currently on the market. Now, as you can see, this supplement includes L-Citrulline malate 2:1 and a total of 3 grams. So what does it actually mean, L-Citrulline malate 2:1? Well, if you have 2 grams of L-Citrulline malate 2:1, it means we have actually 2 grams of L-Citrulline and 1 gram of malic acid, because L-Citrulline malate is simply a mixture of L-Citrulline and malic acid, and 2:1 simply refers to the ratio of L-Citrulline to malic acid. So actually, this supplement only contains 2 grams of L-Citrulline. Now, as we saw earlier, the minimum effective dosage of L-Citrulline in its pure form is 3 grams. So when you are not paying close attention, you might think, okay, the minimum effective dosage is 3 grams, and this supplement contains 3 grams. But no, it actually only contains 2 grams of L-Citrulline, and the rest is malic acid. In other words, this supplement has amount of L-Citrulline below the minimum effective dosage, so we can conclude that this product has a useless amount of L-Citrulline. It probably will not have any effect on your workout performance, and this kind of is a scam. Now, to make it even worse, in this meta-analysis that we talked about earlier, they also wrote the following. 5 separate brands of citrulline malate products with purported 2:1 ratios were independently tested with observed values ranging from 1.11:1 to 1.92:1. In other words, they tested 5 different brands that said, hey, we have L-Citrulline malate 2:1, just like this one. But in reality, the amount of L-Citrulline was even lower than they said on the label. So we not only have deceptive labels trying to show, hey, we have enough L-Citrulline, but actually it is L-Citrulline malate, not L-Citrulline. And we also have inaccurate ratios. So me personally, I would say use as a rule of thumb the number of L-Citrulline malate that you see on the label times 0.6 is the actual amount of L-Citrulline, and that should be above 3 grams. So to make that easier for you, we need at least 5 grams of L-Citrulline malate 2:1 in a single dosage of a supplement to know that there is an effective amount of L-Citrulline in the supplement. So this one has 3 grams. Obviously, it did not pass the test. You should not buy this supplement. Now, another way supplement companies can fool you is when they do not even mention the ratio of citrulline to malic acid. So as you can see, this is another label from a different pre-workout supplement. And it says it has 6 grams citrulline malate, but we do not know if it is going to be 1:1 or 2:1. So if it's going to be L-Citrulline malate 1:1, it means there's only 3 grams of citrulline in this supplement. And if it's going to be 2:1, it's actually going to be 4 grams. So that, of course, makes quite some difference. And I would think personally that if they do not mention this ratio, maybe they have something to hide, or they are simply sloppy, both of which are not good things. I would say that's a red flag. Personally, I would not buy a supplement that does not mention this ratio on the label. So let's talk about risks and downsides of L-Citrulline. Well, they found that in humans, 15 grams of citrulline taken acutely, so all in one go, does not appear to cause diarrhea or intestinal upset. So that is, of course, great. And no other research has found particular downsides of taking L-Citrulline. There's really no reason to ever take more than 15 or 10 grams of citrulline at once, because the maximum effective dosage found in science was about 10 grams. So you should not really expect any downsides from taking L-Citrulline. It's generally very safe. When it comes to dosage and quality, we talked about it numerous times right now. 3 to 10 grams is the range you should take, not less than 3, and more than 10 is probably not going to add any benefits. So when we're talking about L-Citrulline malate, because that is actually the ingredient most often used in supplements, that means you should look for 4.5 to 15 grams of L-Citrulline malate 2:1 in your supplement. So when to take L-Citrulline? If you want to use it for your workout performance, probably 30 minutes to 1 hour pre-workout should be good. If you want to use it, for example, for lowering blood pressure or treating erectile dysfunction, you can take it any time of the day. So final verdict, I would give L-Citrulline a 7.5 out of 10. It is a very safe supplement. It's also actually relatively tasty. It tastes kind of sour. It tastes like citrus fruits, as the name suggests. It has a couple of modest benefits. However, I would say more research is needed to really confirm those benefits. So that was it for L-Citrulline. If you like this video, please leave a like, and if you want to see more, subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out a ton. If you have any questions, just drop them below and I will get to them. And if you have suggestions about what you want to see in the future, also just let me know, and I'm going to try to make your wish come true. All right, thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.